This is it.
If you're not listening to the truth, then it's false. The Thursday podcast.
Online.
Across the country.
Because I'm your wife. You can't fire me. We in this together.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We want to welcome everybody back to another episode of the Thursday podcast. And I am your host, the H-Double Hark Henry, and I have my wonderful co-host, your lady, the Her.
Your lady, the Her, is in the Elephant Room Studios.
The star of the show.
Oh, whatever.
And we have an exciting show today, and I'm very, very, very excited because I've been saying this to this person all week, and I know they're tired of me saying it. So before we get started, we're going to pay a bill. So who's sponsored this show?
All right. This episode of the Thursday podcast is brought to you by Sons of SP Phillips. Visit www.sonsofspphillips.com. Sons of SP Phillips is an online boutique with new and slightly used designer and name brand clothing and apparel for men and women. Sons of SP Phillips also has custom restyled fedora and brim hats, custom t-shirts, and other custom accessories. You can follow Sons of SP Phillips on IG, Facebook, and X at Sons of SPP. Go to Sons of SP Phillips to find up to 70% off. That is 70% off. Great items.
Yes. If you get this custom equality sweatshirt, nice stuff. Equality, good stuff for the culture. Good stuff. So, season 4. This is our season 4 in Sickness and in Health. This is episode 2, and this episode is titled Menopause, Healthier Today and Healthier Tomorrow. And we are going to delve into the various facets of menopause health. And our guest, and we are confident that this guest has a certain expertise in what we're talking about, and they are going to add an immense value to this conversation.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Yes. And like I said menopause. And this isn't just a conversation for women. This conversation is for men as well, because like for me, as I'm going to touch 50 soon and I'm married, and my wife, we are entering a certain age bracket, our generation. You forgot your shoes, didn't you?
I forgot my shoes.
I'm going to get on you.
Epic fail.
We'll get on that. But we're entering this age bracket where sickness and health is really becoming a thing, and it's part of our wedding vows, and it's something that my wife and I take very serious. So without further ado, this very special guest I have who has me so excited, I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. You guys make me giggle. And to hear a man say he's so excited to talk about menopause is great. As my husband refers to it, he goes, "Is menopause like men on pause?" And I'm like, yeah, it is for a moment. So thank you very much. My name is Samantha Montpetit-Huynh. I've been married for 28 years. I'm the mother of 2 daughters, 18-year-old Rain, a 22-year-old Rio. And so I look at you guys, married. You said you're going on your 7th year. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's so lovely. I'll meet you at the 28th year. Anyway.
Okay.
I am an online health and fitness coach. I've been a certified personal trainer going into my 23rd year. And I am the owner and founder of a company called SamCoreTrainer. And so please call me Sam, because the only person who calls me Samantha is my mother when she's angry. And so I am very passionate about women's health in general. I mean, I started when my babies were babies, so I specialized in pre and postnatal for a long time. And then as my babies grew and I grew, I shifted the focus of my business. And then I started talking about more focusing on women over 40. And it wasn't until menopause when I was like, wait a second, when the whole world was shutting down or did shut down, I become more educated that most women in their 40s are in perimenopause. And
told you.
Most women don't know it. I didn't know it because it's just not something that was discussed. And even though we're seeing more people talk about it, still the amount of women who reach out to me, they go, oh, it's not menopause. I'm just tired. Or I can't manage stress as well. Or no, it's just because I'm eating too much. Oh, no, it's just because of this. And it's like, ladies, things are changing. And I think because there's been so much stigma around menopause and maybe our moms didn't talk about it. I know my mother never even uttered the word menopause.
Mine either.
Your mother? Oh, okay.
Nope.
Yeah. So most people I know, like, they never did. And so there's this stigma, this internalized stigma about menopause, that if we do accept that it is menopause, then all of a sudden we're no longer young. We're old. Oh my God. We're nearing the end of, like, we're close to death. And it's like, ladies, are you kidding me? This is the best time. Best. And people might be listening to me going, yeah, whatever. I can't sleep. I've got hot flashes. I've gained 50 pounds. Like, this isn't great. But once you start doing the things that you need to do, the lifestyle changes, and really focusing on your health, I'm telling you, I feel the best I've ever felt. It's great.
Right. And for me and her, we had discussed this a few times. Just growing up, I thought my education on menopause was the Golden Girls.
Yes.
I just thought, you're an old lady and you're dusty. That's all I knew. And but over the last couple months, because this was brought to my attention by somebody else, and I said, man, let me get in this. I think this would be a great subject for married couples and people who are going to get married. And then I came across Coach Sam, and I'm like, she's kicking it.
Yeah.
Some people's like, oh, menopause.
Woe is me, and I can't. Yeah.
And then Coach Sam is here. Is like, nah, she out tooting, and she's, I got her Instagram up, and she said, she got some curse words on there. She said, why the F did I come outside and things like that. But she's bringing a little excitement. She's letting people know, say, hey, because your body's going through this change, it's not the end of the world for you.
Yeah.
You still got a life to live. You still got things you can do, but you got to change things as your body changes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and just looking at your page and just listening to some of the subject matter you have on here, kind of elaborate everything that you touch on, please.
Well, my name is my business name is SamCoreTrainer, because at the foundation of all of my training and coaching is the core. Because I am a core and pelvic health specialist. So I did that for many, many years. So I could not ignore that. And everybody has a core and everybody has a pelvic floor. Men do too. And so that is the foundation of all of my exercise training. So like I said, I am a certified personal trainer, but I decided to focus more on overall health, because there is not a system or function or tissue in our body that is not affected by menopause. It affects our muscles. It affects our bones. It affects our mental health. It affects our energy. It affects our sleep. It affects everything, our concentration. It affects our brain. So I had to make sure that when I'm working with women, I am offering them a full comprehensive approach. But as you said as well, if you look on my Instagram, I also love going out dancing. Love it. And I feel like that's been for me, and I've been very vocal about it, that I've got this like renewed kind of found love, this connection that brings me back when I used to go to the clubs, 24/7 in my late teens and my early 20s. And I'm 53. I turned 53 December 10th. And so, but I'm a perfect example of our life does not have to stop. If anything, this is like a new beginning. This is a new opportunity. So yes, I do focus on exercise. I focus on nutrition. I do focus on overall lifestyle coaching. But I also, when I work with my clients, it's really important for them to understand. And I don't really like the word balance, because there's kind of really no such thing, because people think that everything should be just, the same all the time, right? Like we're going to have 50% of this and we're going to have 50% of this. And I really think that balance is BS. But an overall homeostasis, that you can exercise, you can eat well, but you can still enjoy chocolate. You can still enjoy wine. You could still go out. You could still do these things It might look differently, and it definitely will look differently than what you did 20, 30 years ago. But honestly, there's this newfound confidence in your abilities, and really getting women to reconnect and feel good. Because even though, and I know we're going to talk about this, I would say like 99.9% of women who reach out to me, they're like, I need to lose weight. I've gained all this weight in menopause. And then I say, why do you want to lose weight? Right? And then we get down to the whys deep. And at the end of the day, women just want to feel happy. They want to feel good again. They feel very disconnected, right? Their body is changing, their mood is changing, their sleep is changing, and they're kind of feeling like an alien has taken over. I always joke and I say, menopause is kind of like being pregnant, except there's no prize at the end. Wait, and there's no baby. Where's the prize? Right? You just gain weight, and then you just have to suck it up, and then you go to your doctor. And sadly, doctors, the majority of doctors are not taught about menopause, or they might be taught 2% of their entire 4 years of medical school on menopause, so that they're devalued and they're not listened to by their doctors. And so women feel like they're just struggling. I'm trying to just make it from day to day. And so that's a big part of my coaching is, you don't have to do this alone, and we should not. We shouldn't.
Right. And that's why I like that, Hark is excited about the conversation, because as our significant others, our spouses are seeing the changes that we are going through, and they're experiencing it as well, and they don't know what to do or how to help. So I'm glad that, you're interested and excited about this conversation.
Yes. I am. And you want to know what else I'm also interested about?
Oh, boy.
That since Coach Sam is a personal trainer, I know her shoe game must be lit.
I am so...
Because we got to have our moment in shoes.
I failed.
We got to have our moment in shoes.
You want to share my...
I hide myself in shame. If you're messaging on Instagram, I might have 4 pairs.
What? Only 4? Oh, come on.
My 22-year-old daughter, though, could open her own store.
That's how we are.
We need her on the show. We need her on the show. Now, Coach Sam, I probably should have put this in your ear. It didn't have to be sneakers because like I said, I saw you on there tooting, having a little party. Maybe I should have had you bring on your heels or your dance shoes.
There you go. So those, I do have a couple pairs of shoes that I always wear, and I can dance for hours in them. Hours.
Well, that's a good shoe. I want to see that one.
So what you got for us today?
Do you want me to go get my shoes?
Yeah,
I want to see them.
Yeah, moment of shoes.
I'm coming back. 1 second. Okay, you might laugh or might be thinking what? These are so comfortable. They're literally like running shoes. Okay. And then these ones. Very similar.
Oh,
very similar. They have to be a wide heel, but a little heel. Mm-hmm. And then I love a cow booty. I love a pointy shoe. And I honestly, for hours. Now, the next day, my feet might be kind of going, Sam, what did you do? during the dancing, they're all, those are my dancing shoes. Now, I wear sandals in the summer when I go. So when we're going to to Caravana or stuff like that, I'll wear sandals. Mm-hmm. But yep, that's what I wear. Those are my dancing shoes.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So her just slid me a pair of hers. What are these called? Her Air Force
Shadows.
Her Air Force Shadows. They got little patches and stuff on them.
All the things.
Or she has them. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her shoe game. Because we work from home most of the time, so we're mostly gym shoes now, sneakers and all that.
Well, and then part of the reason is the injury that I had when I was in the boot for 8 months. I still can't wear heels, so then I had to step up my shoe game even more.
Yeah,
tennis shoes.
She was out trying to look cute in some heels and something. Yeah, so here go mine, because I always got to represent.
Oh, whatever.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, even Coach Sam said
Very
ooh.
nice.
Yeah, Air Max Guava, I think they're called Air Max
I love
Guava.
that color.
So yeah, thank you. So we were in Florida, and we get up pretty early and hit the outlet stores. As soon as we got in there, there's always these resellers in there trying to snatch everything up. And they were all scanning these, and there was a pair there. So I said, let me grab those real quick. I think he was a little mad at me, but, he wasn't going to do too much about it. So, so I got my pair. So, Coach Sam, now, with your personal training, so as a personal trainer, you said the core. So training the core, is that the most vital part to train? Because you said like when menopause affects your muscles, your bones, is the core the most vital part that you should train, or is it just like certain exercises you should do, or is there something specific?
I would say in menopause, you really need to focus on full body. And if you have a coach who knows they're properly, they know proper exercise programming, it would always incorporate core, right? So you can incorporate the core when you're doing a squat. You can incorporate the core when you're doing a lunge. You can incorporate it when you're doing a bicep curl, you're doing a chest press, right? Because it's all about actual breathing. And and the pelvic floor is the foundation of the core. So do you guys have children? Okay.
No.
Nope.
So for mothers, for example, 1 in 3 women, and I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure if this study was done for women in general or if it was just for mothers, but I know that mothers, pregnancy and birth actually exacerbate it. But 1 in 3 women leak urine. Okay. So in other words, coughing, sneezing, running, jumping, they might leak. And it's been very, very, very normalized, especially in the media, right? We see these commercials now for Depends and all this other thing. And these women are like 35, 40 years old. And they're like, I'm putting on my Depends and I'm going to the store. And it's like, wait a second. Now, I'm not saying this to shame women who actually need them, but it's a Band-Aid. It's not correcting the issue of why you're leaking in the first place. But the problem is with healthcare in general, there's not a lot of, women are very dismissed. Most things in healthcare were based on straight white men. BMI was based on straight white men. Most exercise, any exercise research up until 20 years ago, they didn't even talk about women. They didn't do any research on women. So it was basically, do this, even though this is created by straight white men, we're going to give this to a black woman who's a queer and she's 5'2", right? It doesn't make any sense. So when we're talking about core and pelvic health, your pelvic floor is the foundation of your core. So if you leak, I would say you have a dysfunctional core. Well, not I would say, it is a fact. Okay. And so this is something that we have to address, because once closer you get to menopause, not only do you lose muscle much quicker, but your pelvic floor is a group of muscles as well. Your bladder is a muscle. So if you're losing muscle in your arms and your legs, guess what? If you're leaking now, it's just going to get worse when you age. Okay. And leaking, for example, is the second leading cause of why people are put into nursing homes after dementia. Incontinence, because nobody wants to change anybody's diaper. Right?
So is there... I'm sorry.
It's important, though, that when you're getting a program done that incorporates all of it, okay, in an effective way, so you're addressing your core, your pelvic floor, and the other external muscles that you can see and feel.
Her has a question, but I wanted to go back to a point that you touched on that we had discussed in our last episode, and it was just a point that you made that we had discussed on like when we talked about why my dad and why black men don't go to the doctor. And like she said, like these straight white men make these medical laws and these rules that don't consider us. And remember, my dad had cancer, and a lot of men don't go to the doctor because we don't feel like we're getting the right care. And sometimes, as for women of color, that same thing applies. And I just wanted to re-emphasize that to the general public, for anybody new listening, if you want to go back, that's a real concern in our community, in our culture, that we don't always get the proper care, or it's not for us, more or less. So go ahead.
Medical racism is a very real thing. I mean, women statistically, especially Black women, we are very underserviced because we are considered to be tough. We have higher pain thresholds, right? So we're not served well, and especially in menopause, Black women can have a very different experience than white women as far as brown women. But again, and I talked about this on my Instagram, it was a couple of weeks ago. It's like, how come all the faces that are talking about menopause are all straight white women? Shocking, because it's just part of the system, right? So that's another reason why I wanted, it's important to me, for being a Black woman out there on social media talking about this and pointing it out so people will think, right? So just because somebody says something doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be for you, right? Because our experiences can be very, very different.
Right. Go ahead with your question.
I just wanted to circle back to the pelvic floor exercises. Is there anything that you could share with our listeners on kind of exercises they can do for, increasing the pelvic floor, strengthening the pelvic floor, or is it something that they could just Google? Like, if they don't have a trainer, is there a way that they can understand these exercises?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So typically when people leak, they think about Kegels, right?
I've heard that.
Most doctors will say, well, you just hold the muscles that hold your urine. Like, you just squeeze the muscles that hold your urine. But statistically, we know that over 60% of people who do Kegels do them incorrectly, right? And what people also don't understand is that just because you leak doesn't mean that you've got these big, loose pelvic floor muscles that are just like hanging and flapping in the wind, okay? You can have muscles that are too tight. So for example, and I'm glad we're on video, if I walk around like this the whole time, would you give me a bicep curl? No. Because a bicep curl, I'm just going to create more of this. I need to be able to do this. I need to fully extend before I can fully contract. That's how the muscles of the pelvic floor work. The muscles of the pelvic floor need to be able to fully expand before they can contract. So for example, you maybe says not an urgency incontinence. Oh my God, this is my menopause brain. Like, I know what I want. Word is not coming out. But anyways, the most common forms of leaking is when someone coughs, sneezes, jumps, runs, laughs, right? And so what happens is their muscle will trigger and then they'll leak, okay? Because the muscles can't hold the urine, okay? And so it's like a delayed response. And so, or just lack of tone or too much tone. So what happens is, if you've got a muscle that's already up here and it's super, super tight, I don't want you to do Kegels, because all you're going to do is going to create a muscle that's more tight. So believe it or not, for most women, they have to learn how to relax their pelvic floor so their pelvic floor can get full extension before it can contract and control yourself and support your bladder, right? So most women over 40, I would say, like I say this all the time. I said, do you know a woman over 40 who isn't stressed? I don't.
Neither do I.
So we're all stressed. We're hustling. We're working. Maybe you've got children. You're taking care of, aging parents. You're doing you're managing the home, your partner, all of these things. So we know that we hold tension in our pelvic floor. Okay. So all you have to do is like grit your teeth and you can feel your pelvic floor come on. So flex your, for those who are listening, I want you to like hold a fist really hard and you'll feel your pelvic floor going on. Hold your breath. And you'll feel your pelvic floor do this, right? So we know if we're constantly stressed, most times our pelvic floor is too tight. So if anything, we have to learn how to relax it. So doing things like wide-legged child's pose, right? So that's something they can Google. Lying on their back and doing the happy baby pose. Things that help them to open up and actually relax the pelvic floor can actually help with incontinence, because now the muscle knows how to do this. So if it's more relaxed, it can respond accordingly when you cough, sneeze, jump, run, laugh. Okay. I know that was very much the condensed version, but the only thing is I'm not against Kegels. We should be able to do them, but more often than not, number one, most people are doing them incorrectly. And more often not, again, women shouldn't be doing them because their pelvic floors are too tight. And so what's happening is when they cough or sneeze, the muscle spasms because it has nowhere to go, and then you leak.
Ah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Have you, because you seem to know exactly what she's talking about. Have you done them or some?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
That's because I had to get pelvic floor therapy for another condition.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You did know.
I did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. If you could see a pelvic floor physiotherapist or a physical therapist, that would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the best because a lot of people who do leak, what they'll do is they'll get a bladder lift, they'll get surgery. But again, we know that 45% of those surgeries fail within the first 5 years because, again, it's not addressing the issue of what caused the leaking in the first place. Whereas you go to pelvic floor physical therapy, you've got an 80% success rate as opposed to 45. Right?
Okay. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Things to think about.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into the first question?
Okay. Her has a question.
The first question from one of our viewers. Can you explain the difference between perimenopause and menopause?
Good question. Because perimenopause is new to me.
Yeah, it's been popping up. I never heard of it till recently.
I'm like, what is perimenopause? Is that a new song or a new artist? I've never heard of it. I said, is that for real? They was like, yeah, that's real. I'm like, okay.
So we have 4 stages of menopause. We have premenopause, which is you literally come out of your mother's womb, okay, up until you hit perimenopause. So that can last between 30 to 40 years. Perimenopause is the time when you're starting to prepare yourself for menopause. This is the time leading up to menopause, and it can last on average, I would say, and this is a big, it's quite a long time, 3 up to 15 years.
3 to 15 years?
It can generally, most doctors would say once you hit 40. You're at some stage of perimenopause. You might not be aware of it. Most women aren't, like I said before, right? But you're sleeping. You're not quite sleeping as well, or you might be waking up in the middle of the night and you can't settle down as easily. You're a little bit more tired. What a lot of women will say is, I can't manage my stress as well. Like, I'm more irritable. I want to punch my partner out when he's sleeping. I'm more irritable to my kids. I can't focus as well. Like I'm starting to get a little bit more foggy, right? I am noticing the scales starting to creep up and really nothing has changed. That's a big one, right? Like nothing has changed. Not like I'm sitting down eating buckets of ice cream for dinner. All of a sudden though, I'm noticing my clothes are getting a little bit tighter and I'm starting to go up a size and I might even be exercising more and even being more strict with my food, right? And so but some people actually hit perimenopause in their 30s. I have a girlfriend. She's 37. She is in full-blown perimenopause. She's getting hot flashes and everything. Okay?
I think I'm in perimenopause. All the things you described is what I'm feeling. And the sleep, the irritability.
Oh, yeah, she's irritable.
Thanks for coming on the journey with me. The hot flashes, the night sweats. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. So what's happening is your hormones are really just starting. Right? And so menopause is actually only 1 day. Menopause in itself is the last day of the 12th month of no menses. So you've got a full 365 days without a period. And so that last day marks menopause. And then after that, you're postmenopause. Okay. So a lot of experts like myself who talk about menopause generally, I am talking primarily about the 3 stages: perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Because I'm not just going to talk about 1 day, right? And 99% of people who are struggling are in perimenopause because that's when things are changing. And if I got a little bit more like technical and hormonal, out of your 2 main sex hormones. So when I do a lot of presentations and I do workshops, I'll say, like, what is the one hormone you think of when you think of menopause? And people will say estrogen. And yes, estrogen is a very important hormone, but guess what? Men produce estrogen too, just like women produce testosterone. But the hormone that is dropping more significantly in perimenopause is progesterone. So out of the two, estrogen, think of it as like estrogen is the partier and progesterone is like the one who likes to stay home. Estrogen lubricates your joints. It gives you curves in all the right places. It gives you energy. It makes you happy, right? It's a great happy hormone. Progesterone is the one that likes to stay home. It doesn't want to party. It wants to stay home and eat chocolate and binge watch Netflix, right? So estrogen is more available during the first half of your cycle, where progesterone is more available during the second half of your cycle leading up to your period, right? Progesterone, Now estrogen and progesterone both help to block the negative effects of cortisol, which is our main stress hormone, okay? Progesterone also helps us to sleep. So if you think about it, you're going through perimenopause, progesterone's starting to decline, you can't sleep as well. You can't manage stress as well. And that's because progesterone is really starting to take a nosedive. Where estrogen is still doing what it's doing, it is slowly declining, but not as drastically as progesterone. And that's why we'll also hear about progesterone is kind of like a roller coaster because it's not balancing out with progesterone like it was before. You didn't have this really good yin and yang. Now it's more like estrogen's doing what it's doing while progesterone is like taking a nosedive. Right? So that's basically what's happening. And then once you hit closer to menopause, estrogen really starts to decline faster, catching up with progesterone. And so then post-menopause, now you've got the two much lower, way lower than it was before. Okay. And so now we're not sleeping well, we're more irritable, we can't focus, but now we have hot flashes and we have night sweats because of estrogen. We're starting to notice even more weight gain because estrogen is also there to help us manage our blood sugar and manage our metabolism, right? So once you can get to a good homeostasis post-menopause, that's really what we're looking for. But it's that journey during perimenopause that most women are having a really, really difficult time. And it's because your hormones are doing all of that.
Out of whack.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a 3-part series. So I have the next episode, I have a medical doctor, but I have the last closeout part of this series is a friend of mine. And the reason why I asked her, because she went on Facebook one day and she shaved her head clean bald. And I've known her for a long time. And I said, looks good, but
why?
I said, what brought that on? And she said, I've been dealing with menopause, and she said, this is what it brought me to. And she said she had been dealing with it for like 15, 20 years. She's younger than me, not by much, because I've known her for a long time. But she said she's been dealing with it for 15 years. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing this segment, And she said, I think it'd be a good topic because she said, I never understood it, what was going on. So, and I'm saying this to piggyback how she said, Coach Sam said, what you say, 3 to 15 years or something like that? You can be dealing with it?
And it could be more and it could be less. Like, that's the thing, because there's been little to no research in menopause. Again, because it's women's health, so not shocking, right? That women are really feeling alone and they're just scrambling all the time just to try to find something. So, with your girlfriend, I'm not surprised because that's another, like when they say a menopause symptom and they'll give you a list of 20, I swear to God, I bet you there's like 300 or 400 menopause symptoms. Because here's the thing about menopause and our hormones. Hormones are like the puppeteer and we're the puppets. So when our hormones are good, we're good, right? And when they're not, we're not. And like I said, there's not a system or a function or a tissue that menopause doesn't affect. So yes, but I've had some women who say, their hair's starting to fall out in chunks, becomes really thin, dry skin. So I have never had, for example, like your standard hot flash or night sweat. I've never had that, touch wood.
Oh,
ears
bless
are
you.
so itchy, I could literally stick razor blades in my ears. My skin is so dry, right? I started to getting itchy, like itchy skin. And so and the thing is during perimenopause, things are constantly changing. So just when you think, okay, I've got it under control, something else happens.
Wow. So can you touch on just some other symptoms that people might not know about? Like I didn't know about the dry skin. Like my skin is super duper dry now. My lips are constantly peeling. Like it's terrible. So, and the hair falling out. Are there other?
She got her lip off.
Oh, I have mine right here too. Are there some other symptoms you can just touch on?
Okay, so all right, so
Coach Sam is
symptoms.
wild.
So here's the thing, though, when you actually just kind of, again, my menopause symptom is trying to remember things in the moment. So I might blurt it out later on. We're talking about something else, but yeah. So itchy, dry skin, rashes, ringing in ears. So tinnitus.
Okay.
What do you call it? Dizziness. What do you call that? Vertigo. Vertigo for sure.
Yeah, she has
vertigo. Headaches, migraines. Dry eyes. Like if you think about it, because estrogen is our lubricant and lubricates everywhere, gentlemen, even down.
Right. Oh, and that was a question.
She has another question.
That just hit exactly on a question from another viewer or listener. She was like, I have dryness down there. Like, what is going on? Is that normal? So you just hit right on it. Yeah, it's and also, just to point out before you continue with the symptoms, menopause is different for every person, right? So you may not experience all the symptoms you're just throwing out there. So not everybody will have the same symptoms.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Pre-diabetic. So insulin resistance is very common as well. And becoming pre-diabetic is not abnormal. And again, it's not because all of a sudden you're eating candy all the time. Maybe you're eating the way you already have, but then what is happening? Right? Now you get your blood work and you're like, oh shoot, like my blood sugar is high. Why? Right? Yeah. And that's, again, I mean, we could go on and on about that separately, but like, so pre-diabetic, depressive episodes, very common. Depressive episodes are very common. The vaginal dryness, up to 85% of women will experience vaginal dryness and pain during intercourse.
Wow.
Loss of libido. Right? All of a sudden you look at your husband, you're like, the last thing I ever want to do is have sex with you. And you've been having sex for... And the thing is then the men, and I get this, right? They feel like, oh, what did I do? What? And they take it personally. And the woman is frustrated because she wants to be able to have sex. They've had sex before. Like, why is this all of a sudden? Why can I not stand the look of my husband's face? Right? All of these things are hormonal. And the thing is like, if women don't understand that, like I said, hormones affect everything. So if things all of a sudden are different, you're not going crazy. And this is what I hear a lot. Women say, I feel like I'm going crazy. There's something wrong with me. And then you go to your doctor. So I'm so glad you're having a doctor on that hopefully addresses these things. Because most doctors, you go to and they're like, I've got hot flashes. Oh, here, take an antidepressant. It's like, well, I'm not depressed. I just can't sleep because I'm sweating all the time. And there is some research that does show that antidepressants can help with hot flashes, but so many doctors are afraid to prescribe HRT, hormone replacement therapy, because of a study that was done over 20 years ago that has been since obliterated. Like it was so unfounded. It was a really, really, really bad study. And so they're so afraid to prescribe hormone replacement therapy, but they'll put a 45-year-old woman on the pill, which has way more hormones. And we know that that puts women at a much increased risk of other health concerns. We know as a just across the board, women who have been on birth control should be off by 40. Right? So, so then trouble sleeping, insomnia, loss of focus. Joint pain is another one. That's a very common one in menopause. Again, because we have estrogen receptors in every part of our body. We've got them in our brain. We've got them in our muscles. We got them in our tissues. We have them in our joints. And if you think about an elastic band and you put it out in the sun for 3 hours, what happens?
It dries up.
That's what's happening to our joints. Isn't that great? So all of a sudden you bend down. It's like, my knees hurt. Right? It's like, my knees have never hurt before. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm 85. Right? So now you have to make even more concerted effort to really focus on mobility and stretching. I'm a personal trainer. I'm an online health coach. My knees have never hurt in my life. And now my knees are they're not hurting, but they're stiff. And I'm like, what is happening? What's happening? Right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, when I think of other symptoms, I'll blurt them out in the middle of our conversation. But there's honestly, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any symptom that's different. That's not a symptom of menopause. And if doctors tell you that and say, well, that's not a symptom, how do they know? There's no research.
Right. So just to piggy or circle back to the comment about the prescriptions, and even if you're taking something unrelated to this topic, there's always side effects. So it's always you're weighing, the side effects versus getting relief from the prescription. Are there any natural remedies or foods or anything that a woman can take to help cope with the symptoms they're experiencing?
Absolutely. So there's things that are called phytoestrogens that help your body to replicate the good estrogen that we want to produce. So things like flaxseed, tofu, right? Those are we can find them in other fruits and vegetables, but those are the two main ones that I think about. There's different supplements as well that you can take, but that would be something that you'd work with a naturopath. And just overall lifestyle changes can really help with balancing your hormones. Taking things, and I know ladies, they don't want to hear it, but 3 of the most hormone disruptors that we ingest are sugar, alcohol, and caffeine. And so I would recommend somebody who's really struggling with hot flashes, really look at your caffeine intake. Really look at your sugar intake, right? Really look at your alcohol intake, because even though I understand a lot of women going through menopause, they might be stressed, they're anxious, they come home, I just want to have a glass of wine because I just want to calm down. But absolutely, that's going to exacerbate your symptoms, and it's going to disrupt your sleep. So it's like you get the joy in the moment, but now it's just going to exacerbate your symptoms. It's going to make it worse, right? Now, having said that, talking about hormones, again, because of that study that was done, I think it's now 22 years ago by the Women's Health Initiative, any doctor who specializes in menopause and is up with the latest research absolutely knows for a fact it does not cause cancer, even though that's what came out of the study. Because we also know that the majority of the women in that study were well beyond the safe time to start. So generally there's a safe window to start hormones, and that would be 10 years after you've hit menopause. So you can take it in perimenopause, but remember, menopause is 1 day. So then you have another 10 years after that, which they consider the safe zone. That would be general. But even still, there's women who started even after that. As long as this is something that's just like anything. You write someone a prescription, you want to look at their health history. But there's a woman I follow on Instagram who is a breast cancer survivor who had estrogen positive breast cancer. And she still is a big advocate for taking estrogen. Because estrogen, again, we have estrogen receptors in every part of our body. So when we no longer have it, there's a reason why we feel like crap. So you've got to look at yourself and look at the pros and cons, right? Is it about quality of life or quantity? You can have a really good quality of life and maybe knock 2 years off of it, or you can have a longer life and then feel like crap, right? So, and when people say that hormones aren't natural, we have hormones in our body since we were born. All we're doing is replacing what our body is releasing, right? So as far I'm very pro hormone therapy. So that's estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol. I'm a big fan of it. Everybody has to make an informed choice, but a lot of doctors still follow that study that was done over 20 years ago. And the North American Menopause Society, for people who are listening, you can look up, they have a ton of research that supports the safety of hormone replacement therapy. And hormone replacement therapy gives you way, way, way less hormones than on the birth control pill. So if you're okay with being on the birth control pill, you should have no problem being on hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
Right. Coach Sam, let me ask you this. Let me run it back a little bit. And this is for the men. You mentioned that during this process, at some point during the menopause process, the woman loses the libido and doesn't want to have sex. And, for some men,
messes with their egos.
Yeah, that's a punch in the gut. So what would be a good way for them to, what are some things that they need to understand, what they need to look for, understand it's not me, it's not something that I did, or something that I need to fix, or something that you need to fix, that the woman needs to fix, but something I have to be patient with, or something that I have to understand. What is it? What more do I have to do to be patient with my wife during this process? And again, this is why, one of the reasons why we're doing
good.
this.
I'm so glad you asked me that. So yes, it is the patience, and it is the understanding that every single woman, if she lives long enough, if she, she has the honor of living past the 50s or whatever the average age is. I think the average age of menopause is 52. Women are going to go through menopause. Now, not every single woman is going to lose her libido, but the majority of them, they're going to feel some sort of a decline, right? Because we also know that 85% are going to experience vaginal dryness. So she might want to have sex, but she can't because it hurts now. And now she's created this mental connection of pain. I don't want to have sex, right? So it might even start there before the desire is gone, right? And so for men to understand that, yes, it has nothing to do with them, right? I mean, unless they're a jerk. But and the thing is, men also go through andropause. Men, their hormones change too, but it's not as significant and drastic like women, right? It's kind of slow and steady, or where women are like, right? It's kind of like we're thrown out of a plane, where men are like, they've got that nice little parachute and they're just gliding, and we're thrown out without a parachute and we're just like, oh my God, right? So, and I think for women too, because I actually had one of my clients, she, about a month ago, we were on our coaching call, and she said, she confided in me that they were about to have sex, and she went to go grab her lubricant, and her husband got really upset and offended. And he goes, "What? I don't excite you anymore?" And she said, "That's not what this is about. This is about estrogen. I don't have any more." And he got really upset. And then she started crying and they started fighting. So obviously it killed the mood. And she was so upset. And I said, I get it. Both sides. I understand it. However, and she goes, and I tried to tell him, it's like, you can't tell someone in the moment when they're so emotional and they're angry and they're triggered. They're not going to listen. Wait until let it pass 3 or 4 days, and then just sit down and just say, babe, my body is changing and I'm losing estrogen. And you could even say, you could send him some articles and say, I just want you to know this has nothing to do. Physiologically, my body is changing. You think the fact that now I have to use lubricant, I don't want to have to use it. I don't have to go pay to go to the store, right? Because it's also hard for us to internalize, because then women think that there's something wrong with them. Ego's getting in the way, that I'm not exciting you. And then we're thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm drying up. I'm becoming like Madge on the Golden Girls, like you said.
Yep.
Right.
And I don't like it either. So let's have this outside of the bedroom, right? And please understand that I do want to have sex with you. I want to be able to be intimate with you. This is just as important to me as it is to you, right? So then she said, because apparently it's every Saturday night is their date night, right? And that's when they have sex and do all the thing. And she goes, and the next weekend, she goes, it was great because they had that conversation. But men, I implore you, for men who are listening, that this has nothing to do with you, right? And if you think it does, well, then I don't know what to say. I'm just telling you, physiologically, you can Google vaginal dryness. The majority of women are going to experience it. So if you want to be able to have sex and enjoy it, then understand that it's going to have to look, it just looks different. Just like, I had a sex expert come and talk to my clients. It was in February of last year. And she was talking about just sexuality in general and how it looks very different as we age. When we're teenagers, we're having sex all the time and we're like, we're being irresponsible. Yep. Right? And we've got a libido like that. And maybe for women I mean, I can tell you personally myself, my libido is way better now than it ever was. Like when I was younger, I was like, meh, where guys were like, they'll screw anything that, looks at them. Even in my experience, but then you have children and now it changes. Now you have to like book an appointment because the kids might hear and oh my God, what are we going to do? And now you're like literally going on a date to a hotel room just to have uninterrupted sex. Right. And now your body is changing with menopause. Like, that sex and relationship changes as we age. Right. So menopause should not be any different.
Right.
So when you get through and over the menopause hump and you're in postmenopause, does anything start to go back to normal? I'm using quotes, normal. Like, does the dryness go away?
No, typically not without. So great. So good. So I'm glad because I kind of forgot my brain there for a second. So just because you have vaginal dryness doesn't mean that it has to be like that for the rest of your life. You can use vaginal moisturizers. Absolutely. That's a big thing. So moisturizing and lubricants are two different things. Okay. So we want to have moist, just like you have skin on your face, you moisturize your skin, your labia, and inside your vagina is also skin, right? Skin. So we have to moisturize. Yeah. Okay. So there's all kinds of products on the market, but you don't want to have a synthetic moisturizer. Okay. Something that's natural, something that has hyaluronic acid, right? Hyaluronic acid is a big thing. We're putting it everywhere. Put it in your vagina. It's also a big lubricant. Okay, we need that. It keeps our skin youthful. It keeps it plump. That's what we want. We want that in our vaginal moisturizer, right? You can also use vaginal estrogen. Okay, it's very effective for vaginal dryness. And for those women who still do not feel comfortable at all at taking estrogen, vaginal estrogen does not enter your bloodstream. So it's perfectly safe. Okay?
Okay. Is that by a prescription?
Yeah, you get it from a doctor.
Okay.
And then obviously then you just have lube everywhere. Right? In case you need it. Because not everybody who does moisturize their vagina actually needs lubricant. Right? But just have it as a side thing. The vaginal dryness, vaginal moisturizers are very, very much a thing, a well-known thing. And you would moisturize your vagina every day after you take a shower, just like you would moisturize your face. Right? Just think it's just skin. That's all it is. Right? And that can really, really help. But do it proactively. Like do it before. Do it before it happens. Because even if you don't have experiencing vaginal dryness right now, you've got an 85% chance that you're going to. So be proactive.
Okay.
Right?
And so for vaginal moisturizers, is this something that is just OTC over the counter?
Yeah. So there's a couple that I like. So there is oh my God, what's it called? Oh my God, she's my girlfriend. Oh my God. Well, there's moisture. Nice. This is what it's like interviewing a menopausal woman. Is it Vagifem? Wait a second. I'm looking at my phone, people. It might be Vagifem. Vagifem? Let me just see here. Oh no, that's Repagyne. We don't want that. No, not Vagifem. No. I can send you one of the products, but there's another one called moisturizeyourvagina.com. That is the URL. Moisturizeyourvagina.com.
Okay.
And you can have a subscription. It sends to you monthly, right? And it's all that I know the woman who created it, so there's no crap in it because guys, you don't want to be putting crap in your vagina. Okay?
Really, you don't.
You don't want to be doing that, right? Especially in menopause when your tissues can be super sensitive and all that stuff, right? But there's that one, and there is another one that I also like very much. And again, it's just being proactive.
Okay. Good information.
Okay. Coach Sam, I want to touch on one more thing before we let you go, because I can hear the dogs flapping their ears back there and everything. Talk about these your menopause retreats.
Oh yes, I'm so
Yes.
okay. So I'm running my first retreat in Costa Rica, in Nosara, Costa Rica, in 2025, called Flip Flops and Hot Flashes. And and now I'm just thinking this.
Hot flash.
Yeah, and no, not a hot flash. I have my heater going here because I've got the weather in Canada, in Toronto, is minus 15.
I didn't know you were in Canada.
And it's minus 15 here in Toronto. And I drip with sarcasm.
That's cold.
So I'm in my office, and my back, I've got these two double doors that back out into my back deck, and so it's not like insulated that great. So I've got a little heater. So I had the heater on, and now I'm like too warm. So Flip Flops and Hot Flashes in Nosara in March 2025, and it really is. It's going to be a menopause focused retreat, where we're just going to be focusing on you. We're going to be doing movement every day, amazing organic food. So I was at the same location in March of last year, and I fell madly in love. I was like, oh my God, this place is beautiful. The chef is incredible. The food is lovely. And it's really just going to be a week all about you. And it's going to be focusing on reconnecting with that person that you're missing. Because remember I said earlier that a lot of women in menopause are just, they feel disconnected. They're like, oh my God, this alien is taking over. I can't sleep. I can't, like I'm crying all the time. I feel like I don't have any connection with my body anymore. And so when I went in March of last year, it ended up being, it wasn't a menopause focused retreat, but there were all women going through menopause. And when I started talking about it, they're like, oh my God, that's me. And oh my God, that's me. And oh my God, that's me. And they're like, you need to run a retreat. So I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And my assistant coach, Jen, who actually lives in Costa Rica, is she just came back from Rishikesh, India, and did her 500 hours of yoga teacher training. She's going to be running daily yoga. We're going to be doing sound healing. We're going to be talking about the chakras and just really getting back to you, because even though menopause is, it's a journey. I'm just going to call it a journey. I don't like saying things like it's a struggle and it's hard. Like, not to say that it's easy peasy, but it's a journey. But the biggest thing I find with this demographic of women is that they've kind of lost themselves. They spent the majority of their lives taking care of everybody else. And then they just feel alone, and they just feel alone dealing with all of the things of menopause. And so this is going to be very much an experiential retreat where we're going to get back to you. We're going to do things that make you feel good, focus on that. And then, when they come back to their homes or their partners or their children, they're going to be like, okay, now this is about me. It is my time. Because that's what menopause should be. It should be, this is an opportunity now for you to really take control of your health. Like no more everybody else. It's all about you until you die. It's about you.
Right. That is awesome. So if our listeners are interested in signing up for the retreat, how do they do that?
They go to my website, SamCoreTrainer.com. It's on there. They can go to my Instagram at SamCoreTrainer. There's a link to get all the information. And I'm really, really excited about it. In Costa Rica, if you haven't been to Costa Rica,
No, and unfortunately, we're going to be on vacation that time next year when you're having it. So I hope you do it again, so that way, I can sign up and.
Can I go?
No.
Women only.
So
I could go about my business. I can entertain myself.
That's true. Yeah, so I'm like, this sounds like something that I would really benefit from, and not only me, but like just family members. I'm thinking about my mom. So unfortunately, I can't make 2025, but hopefully in the future, if there's something going on even later, we'll be able to participate.
First of many. This is the first of many. Costa Rica, it really changed me in March of last year. That's when I started going out dancing again. And I really started to, and I was like, wow, life is pretty awesome. It is a magical place. It really is. I'm going again next month for a month.
A month?
A month.
Wow.
That's good living right there.
It is.
Well, Coach Sam, I'm going to say it one more time. I was so excited to have you. You definitely lived up to the hype. This has been one of the best episodes I've ever recorded.
Thank you.
And one thing I'm going to tell you, we love you. We consider you family.
Absolutely.
Hope to talk to you again. Is there anything else you want to address before we let you go?
No, if anybody needs my help, if you just want to talk, I do offer free discovery calls online. You just go to SamCoreTrainer.com and you can book a call through my website, and I'm happy to help anybody who's struggling, because you should not have to do this alone. No, we're prepared for puberty. We're prepared for pregnancy, but there's no preparation for menopause, and we're left to our own devices, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, so I just want to again echo the information was wonderful. Just your demeanor, your personality is just
exciting.
It is. And see, I'm having a brain thing. Not catchy, but like like I just had a great time. And
yeah, she hates doing the podcast.
I don't hate it, but this has just been a great episode, and I just appreciate you. And like Hark said, you are family. Welcome to the family, and just thank you for taking time out to just share your knowledge with our listeners, and me especially, because I'm like, every time you said something, I'm checking off like, yeah, that's me. So this is just great information. The energy is just great. So just thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and one last time, because I know you gave your websites, but give all your social medias, your websites one last time, so we can make sure all that's out there, and then
Yep, my website is SamCoreTrainer.com, but as social, like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I'm at SamCoreTrainer.
All right. Coach Sam, appreciate you. We love you.
Stay warm.
Yeah. It's cold in Ohio, but it's not 15 below.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Thursday podcast. We are streaming on all platforms. You can follow us on IG and Facebook at 2Harks, on X or Twitter at MSTAJ_HARK. And don't forget to catch us every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern on ITK Community Radio, the 2Harks, music, inspiration, and fun. Thank you for your ears, and make sure to pray along the way.